Hello friends, today I want to talk to you guys about a Sunwuko Wave of Light build that I've been using to push some greater rifts along with farming T13 and that kind of stuff. So, let's talk about the skills. I'm using Mystic Ally, Air Ally, Wave of Light, Explosive Light, Sweeping Wind, Inner Storm, and these two things are to keep our spirit regenerated. This one is wonderful because, on activated you get 100 spirit and you get some passive, same with this. This is just a great damage dealing AoE. Dashing Strike, Wave of the Falling Star. Now, if you're farming, Wave of the Falling Star is nice because you get increased attack, you get movement speed. However, if you're doing greater rifts, use Dashing Strike because it gives you more dodge. We're using Inner Sanctuary, Sanctified Ground. Now, this is an incredibly important ability because it makes it so enemies can't come inside the Inner Sanctuary, which is good because you have Sweeping Winds, and you need to keep the Sweeping Wind stacks up. More about that in a minute. We're also using Mantra of Salvation, Agility, which just increases our dodge more and gives us some resists. And for passes, we're using Harmony. Now, if you're going to use Harmony, you really want to make sure that you have secondary resistances on the majority of your gear. We're using Near-Death Experience, Seize the Initiative, and Beacon of Yatar. Alright, let's talk about the items that we're using. Starting from the top, we're using Zokrin's Gaze. This makes it so Wave of Light is now cast at your enemy. This is a required item. You absolutely have to have it. Good stats are Dex Vite, Crit Chance, and obviously the Wave of Light damage. I'm missing almost 11%, which is quite a bit, so it can be better still. Then we're going to use the Sunwuko set, and now the stats on here, you could get some other things, like you could maybe even get resource cost reduction theoretically, but this is a pretty good roll. It gives you some defensive and some area damage, which is important. The chest piece, just standard stats here. My necklace is awful. This amulet is terrible. It has one good stat, and that's it. Just a crit chance. So this could be way better. My damage could be much, much higher. I just haven't found any good ones yet. That's how it goes. We're using Pinto's Pride. This makes it so Wave of Light does more damage and slows enemies. You're looking for fire skills, dexterity, vitality, and crit chance. And then here's the gloves. You can go for the trifecta, crit damage, crit chance, area damage, then dex. For belt, you need Kyoshiro's Soul. Defensive stats, like always. And see the special text there is Sweeping Wind gains 2 stacks every second. It does not deal damage to an enemy, which is why Inner Sanctuary can be so powerful, is that when you throw those on the ground, if you're standing like in the middle of it, or off to the side if enemies are coming from this direction from the top, you can block them off and then attack without losing Sweeping Wind stacks from hitting enemies, which is incredibly important for this build. Then we're using Sunwuko's Pants, again, just defensive stats. If you don't get secondary resistances, you can roll all resist instead of armor. We're using Unity, because Unity is necessary for higher, greater rifts. And then I'm just using Convention of the Elements, because it's 200% increased damage every rotation. For boots, we're using the Crudus boots. And you could... Oh, I should reroll that armor into something else. Or the movement speed. And last, now the weapons, there's a little variability here. I have this weapon equipped because it's ancient and it's pretty good rolls. So I decided to use this as my main weapon. However, ideally, you would be looking at an ancient version of... One second, sorry. You'd be looking at an ancient version of Kyoshiro's Blade, because then you can have 2 items equipped. You could have Koshiro's Blade and, say, In-geom for speed farming, which is, you really do want an In-geom if you're seriously thinking about speed farming, and because then you can just jump from Elite Pack to Elite Pack with Dashing Strike. However, I just haven't found ancient versions of these weapons yet, so I'm using this, and it's a little bit slower, but as long as the rift density is good, it's not that bad. So, if you're going to have it equipped, if you're going to have the Incense Torch of the Grand Temple equipped, then you need to have Koshiro's Blade cubed. However, if you're using Koshiro's Blade and In-geom or Crystal Fist, then you need to have the Incense Torch cubed. So just be aware of that depending on what you have equipped. For the armor slot, I like Cinder Coat because it gives a reduction in fire skills. You could also use, if you're doing speed farming and you blow monsters up fast enough where you don't have to cast it a bunch, definitely pop on Nemesis Bracers, because then you just get more elite packs, which means you kill stuff faster. Which means you fill the gauge faster and you get more items anyways. And then obviously Ring of Royal Grandeur, because you got to complete Sunwuko's set. So for gems, you want the emerald in your weapon. I'm using emeralds in my gear You could use diamonds in your gear depending on your survivability. I'm also using a diamond in my helm for cooldown reduction. This could be a topaz. It could be even vitality. You know, just go with whatever you think you need. And so for legendary gems, you want to be using Zai's Stone of Vengeance, and this is because you are going to be casting your your Wave of Light far away from things, and so you get that huge damage bonus. You want to stay away. This is a ranged build. You're also going to be using Bane of the Trap because it's just flat damage increase, and then a Bane of the Stricken. This actually works out pretty well. It makes your damage higher. When you're pushing greater rifts, this is sort of important because, you know, you're kind of just slowly belling down to higher bosses. For speed stuff, you could throw on, I don't know, just about anything. You could put on Boon of the Hoarder. You could put on Bane of the Powerful. Something, you know, if there's another gem you like, you can use that one instead. And Paragon. Now, I end up having Max Spirit just because I like it. I don't know if it's necessary. I don't know if it's optimal, but I enjoy having the maximum Spirit. For movement speed, you got to have, you know, 25 movement speed. I have 11 on my boots, so 14 here. Then I just dump the rest into Dexterity. For offensive, I do crit chance, crit damage, then cooldown reduction. For defensive, I start with all resist. Now, I don't actually know. I'm not sure if life or armor is technically better. I went with life just because my life total was pretty low. And because, you know, getting 400 Paragon's not that big of a deal. So, you know, you have a choice between the two, then you can start building up the next one. And for this one, you know, resource cost reduction, area damage, either one of those, depending on which you need more. And then life per hit. Let's check this out in a Torment 13 run. So this is an okay zone. It's not great. It's kind of just linear, and you'll see why having Dashing Strike, like a higher level of Dashing Strike would be, or not Dashing Strike, I'm so sorry. Having In-geom would be better because you could just zip around from Elite Pack to Elite Pack instead of having to kind of slowly walk. And see that Inner Sanctuary blocked him off, and I just sit there and cast my bells. Boom. And you know, if you had In-geom, again, it would be better just because then you can just jump around. You don't have to walk places so slow. And that's the worst part about rifts, right, is having to walk to the next area. I didn't need to get the pylon. Maybe I shouldn't have, just to show you guys how powerful the build is, but I did, and it's done. No, you just sit there and cast it. And we move on. It's probably, I might be going in the right direction. And as you're walking away, you know, just drop a bell. You don't have to kill everything. You're going to be happier if you kill stuff that's in higher density. Oh, I didn't talk about my follower. I guess I could do that really quick. So I'm using, I really like using the Templar follower. I'm using the freeze of, is it freeze of deflection? Yeah, freeze of deflection, because then he blocks and it freezes enemies in place, which can be really nice. I'm using the other two rings are important. You're using Unity, obviously, because you're using Unity. And then the other ring is the Oculus ring. Now, this is fantastic because it makes a little circle on the ground that then buffs up your damage if you just stand in it. Like 100, or I think mine's 81%. So that's a lot of extra damage that you're getting. And it's multiplicative. It's on top of everything else. So it's like having another convention of the elements. And that's just really great. Oops, I'm not even rotating him. And then I'm using the In-geom because it freezes again. Honestly, you might be better off with Thunder Fury. That's just, you know, preference, I feel like. And then lastly, I'm using the Overwhelming Desire Necklace because that has a chance to charm enemies. And then on charm, they take 35% more damage, which is, you know, that's pretty substantial. Again, it's definitely not necessary to optimize your follower. I just kind of enjoy doing it. So you can see this is not too bad. It's a strong build. It's easy to play. Like you don't have to worry too much. You just kind of sit there and hold right click down. So your attack speed is enough where you can just cast continuously and never have to worry about running out of Sweeping Wind stacks, because Koshiro's, as long as you're not hitting enemies with Sweeping Winds, because the Koshiro's soul will refresh it in time. So you just hold down the button. You'll run out of Spirit more often than you'll run out of Sweeping Winds. Actually, you'll never run out of Sweeping Winds, as long as it gets a chance to refresh. But that's just how Sunwuko works. Oh, I wish we had started with this part of the Rift. Oh, well. This is my favorite zone. This, if you're ever trying to do speed, like a speed clear, like a rift in a certain amount of time, you know, always look for the graveyard. You have such a good area. It's huge. It's open. There's tons of monsters. Well, I guess there's not always tons of monsters, but it's it's just amazing. If you have a huge AoE clear like this, just killing tons of stuff. And you'll notice that I don't always go out of my way to stand in the circles when I'm doing this, just because the stuff's not particularly hard. And I don't know, it's just sometimes too much work to be bothered to walk over to the circle and speed clears. But if you're doing greater rift stuff, definitely go for it, because you absolutely do. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoops. Get out of here, Gom. All right, great. And so that's the power of the build. It's really strong, and you can see that if you had really, and if you had the ancient one-handed weapons, you'd be even faster for speed clears. And technically, I think it would probably be better for higher greater rifts too, because you could use an item like the Crystal Fist, which gives you more damage reduction. But you know, just go with what you have. If you have an ancient version of this, definitely use this. I'm doing 1.1 mil, which, you know, it's not bad a few days into the season. And so yeah, guys, that's the build. Hope you have a good time. Talk to you later. Bye.